The black plastic glasses that I wore through high school, most of my youth, and hated, and that my generation made fun of, came back as high retro fashion, with or without a skull and crossbones in the center. And if you don't get that reference, you might want to watch Major League with Charlie Sheen. Well worth spending an evening. Now, what does that have to do with mid-century modern? Well, it's about pattern. Pattern in design and fashion. And this video is going to be something of a romp through mid-century, through several mid-centuries, or a couple, and looking really at pattern, parameters, and absurdities. And before we start romping, I am going to do the traditional request that you click the thumbs up if you like the video. Please subscribe to the channel, make comments, share, tell your friends. All of those things are free, and they really do help the video and the channel, and eventually me. So, thank you. Now, mid-century modern. Of course, in one respect, there is no such thing. As with many categories, that's a term that a writer created. In this case, it was a professional writer, so often it's a collector, an amateur. And the mid-century modern phrase caught on, as some phrases do, some don't. This one just happens to have that right feel and roll off of the tongue. And now we're kind of left to figure out, what does it mean? What doesn't it mean? What does it apply to? What is or isn't mid-century modern? And you're not going to get complete agreement, because some people, as with all things, like to be very precise. They like narrow definitions, narrow applications of the definition, and other people are more flexible. So in some respects, it's whether you look at it strictly as a design or more as a mood. And quite often what we think of is really what we also call Danish modern furniture. Very simple lines, a very clean look, not much in the way of decoration. And that would fairly describe a lot of furniture, both the Scandinavian and U.S., in 1960. It would also describe a lot of things from 1860. The arts and crafts period, when they declared they were going to do things with clean, simple lines and little or no decoration. So, pattern. Things are new, but they are not brand new, never existed before. The old idea, what's old is new again. It comes back usually with variations, different forms, some things added, some gained, what's exaggerated, what's minimized. But the philosophy and the psychological drive are the same. Because every generation, they decide they're going to do something different, and they're finally going to be the ones who fix what their parents did wrong. And okay, yeah, they do some things, and fix is questionable. Now, one of the variations, the arts and crafts era, was really a reaction against industrialization. They thought it had gone too far. And a lot of the mid-century modern is a celebration of industrialization, looking at what can we do with these new machines, these new toys, the new materials? I mean, we've got plastics, we're doing different things with wood, we're playing differently with metals. A lot of things, open up. But at the same time, if you head south and look at the Italian pottery that is highly collectible as mid-century modern, the lines may be simple, maybe not, but quite often there's a lot of color and a lot of decoration, frequently abstract or stylized forms. And one of the most popular is the Harlequin design, which is what, 300 years or so, 400 years earlier as its origin. So new, not exactly. Fun, yeah. And this is the side of mid-century modern that instead of simplifying, exaggerates. And both of those were in many respects a response to the same general mood of the period. Now, the period. Mid-century is not the same as mid-century modern. Modern is not the same as mid-century or mid-century modern. The minute you use modern to describe a design or even an era, you're pretty well screwed, because by the time you say it, it's not modern anymore. Time passes. Modernism, especially literature and art, painting, sculpture, that's a late 19th, early 20th century, when it was really big. And it did kind of work its way into the Art Deco period. Modern was a buzzword for, Chicago World's Fair in the 30s. And you could argue a lot of the mid-century drive came out of that eventually. There's certainly, mid-century modern. A lot of it you can also call Deco Echo. These things come back. Sometimes you can't easily tell which era something is from just based on the style, unless you're really familiar with what the variations are. And mid-century is really a time period. If you divide things into thirds, you could say mid-century is roughly 1935 to about 1965. And that's if you just feel the need to have a defined period. Mid-century modern really peaks in the 1950s into the 1960s, sliding over into the 1970s, when it starts becoming more pop art and postmodern, which is an exaggeration of what came before. Postmodernism, you could almost say, is an exaggeration of an exaggeration, at least in some of its variations. Of course, that's absurdity really is part of mid-century modern and postmodernism. Sense of humor. And that's probably, I'm not going to say that the really clean, simple lines show a lack of sense of humor. People certainly played with them. What we call the atomic or space age variation can get, kind of weird and wild looking. And exactly what makes something space age is hard to say. Sometimes, it looks a bit like a spacecraft. Maybe tends to have the rounded edges more. Of course, the Jetsons cartoon show was mid-century. And if you see something that looks like it should have been in the Jetsons, you can probably call it space age. Atomic, you maybe say more precisely, is playing off of the images of the atom. You see it a lot on wall decoration, especially clocks, and dinnerware. Having said that, in Europe, Scandinavia, you saw the mid-century modern in furniture, glass, pottery, pretty much across the board work. Italy, it's best known for the pottery and the glass. You cross to the United States, a lot of mid-century furniture. The art pottery that had been so big up until a little bit before World War II, probably starting to slide out in the 1930s or so. But by the mid-century modern era, there weren't really a lot of commercial art potteries in the U.S. Hager, yes. I think maybe some California potteries, but you just don't see it in pottery nearly as much in the U.S. You do see it a lot in glass. The glass industry was still going strong. Some aspects were stronger after World War II. Of course, a lot of the West Virginia companies, especially Blinko, one of the best known, Rainbow, Hammond, Bischoff, Pilgrim. Not too far away over into Ohio, you would get Erickson Glass, which is just terribly underrated these days. And it's some of the best mid-century glass in the U.S. But style and design always varies based on a lot of factors, some of which are taste, some of which are economics. But that kind of sums up, well, no, I almost missed dinnerware. Mid-century modern dinnerware was big, big, big in the U.S. Of course, a lot of that's the Russell Wright designs for form, and atomic decoration. That was very big on American dinnerware, some European dinnerware, but I think, the American dinnerware just a lot. So, mid-century modern. It's a mood. It's not a style because, kind of hard to say that Scandinavian furniture, Danish modern, and Italian pottery are the same style. But they get lumped into the same category because there was a mood going on. You could say, for parameters, one aspect of mid-century modern: clean lines, stylization, maybe a deco echo involved, and at the other end you get a little bit of madness. And this little guy is mid-century, comes from 1963, made by the Marx Company, and this was very, very definitely part of the mood at the time. I was there. I remember it. These things were popular, a lot of similar items. Now the real kicker, at about the same time as mid-century modern, another very popular style was American Colonial Revival. Some of this big chunky furniture, lots of decoration, still a lot of wood, but a lot more upholstery. So you could have one member of the family, really dig in their Eames chair, and the cousin down the street is napping on his Colonial Revival couch. So never get the feeling, or never believe anyway, that there was one style. Humans are way too weird to ever get by on one style. That's why we have mixes in any time period. It's why we change the mix just about every time we can. All right, that's the Romp. Once again, I may do some more specific mid-century modern and related videos on some of the glass and the pottery. Have to take a look at the West German pottery, which it covered just about everything, which in some respects makes it the ultimate mid-century modern. Once again, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, click the thumbs up button, or at least please don't click the thumbs down. Hey, I got an ego. I got feelings. And make comments, share, and I'll talk to you later. Meanwhile, I'm going to talk to Donald. We got to discuss some things.